Hi, I want to talk about elevator pitches, log lines, fundraising strategies, going from regular script to line script, production schedule, location, and talent releases. When you're developing your short film idea, one of the ways of explaining your idea and really focus in on it is develop a log line for your story idea and to workshop that log line in the form of an elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is essentially it's the idea that if you get called in an elevator with a producer and you want to impress the producer into possibly funding uh, your film, you'll be able to explain your film within a 2 minute span of time. And what you'll want to first do is to explain to the producer the log line of your story. And the log line is it can be 25 words or less, no more. And you tell them who your interesting character is, what your interesting character wants, which is usually linked to a particular problem, and what obstacles does your main character face. I'll give you some examples here. And this is a feature story log line. Um, a Romanian special needs school teacher must repay her estranged husband's gambling debts to a local crime syndicate before they murder her only child. And that's, right within the 25 word limit. And, what you've done is you've described the main character in your story. You've described a situation in which they're in, the conflict, and what kind of obstacles she wants to save her child. Maybe not necessarily her estranged husband, but his gambling has kind of put them in this particular situation. And here is a log line for the short film Citizen, um, which we have watched in class. Okay, and I've kind of given it a bit of a Maine spin here. A young farm boy from Caribou, Maine, must cross over the Canadian border to escape being enlisted to fight in an unlawful, bloody American war. Uh, that, once again, is kind of a good explanation of the character of the particular situation. He wants to escape over the border, so he isn't enlisted in this unlawful uh, American War. So it's a good way of sort of expressing your story idea. One could even think of these as almost kind of like thesis statements for writing, and having a log line really it helps uh, the person who's going to develop the short film, or if it's a feature film, it helps them maintain their focus. I'll provide a couple more here. Is a log line for God of Love. This is a little different. A lounge singer finds a magical set of darts and learns that one cannot choose whom one loves or who loves you. So there's, you know, that's kind of put together a little bit differently than the previous ones that I've explained. Here's the log line for the lunch date. An affluent, persnickety septuagenarian attempts to grab a quick lunch before boarding her train home, but finds that she has to contend with a homeless man. Uh, I think that kind of like captures what the story's about in a nutshell, and certainly, can be used in your elevator pitch. The other thing in your elevator pitch is you could get into describing the characters a little more in terms of their appearance and their attitudes. You could also go into why, explain where this story idea came from, and maybe the particular genre, or if you can go into a little more of the dramatic arc of the story, particularly if it's a feature story. Now, for a short film idea, you want a really straightforward type of story because, frankly, you just don't have the time for a lot of backstory about the character and not. So you want to be able to get your story and get your character in motion. Usually, stories come about from a particular problem that your character has to deal with, and that's where the want usually comes in. Um, and then the story itself is your character trying to resolve the particular problem. Your character has also probably an inner desire as well as they kind of have to deal with a problem at an external level. And then there are obstacles that he or she has to face, and that's kind of the essence of drama, of which is conflict. Doing these elevator pitches, and I'm going to ask each team to do one for next week. I would certainly work on your log line. I don't expect you to really go, you know, you can, like I said, don't go beyond 2 minutes, but explain your log line and anything else that you think is relevant or interesting about your story idea. Okay, fundraising strategies. Um, I want to kind of discuss this. I don't know whether the teams will be raising any particular funds. You're certainly welcome to do so. It certainly doesn't hurt to have some money in terms of feeding the crew, feeding the actors, maybe paying for, I don't know about. Hopefully, you'll be able to use locations that are gratis, that you'll be free to use. But it also doesn't hurt to kind of know about fundraising strategies in general. Um, and the amount and of fundraising and the strategy you follow. I think a lot of this depends on your ambition and depends on the budget for your proposed film. If you have a very small budget, you could get funding from yourself, family, friends. However, if want to expand your budget, um, then there are certain grants you can apply for. You can do some crowdfunding, go through particular of crowdfunding sites like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and to use those successfully, I would recommend producing a trailer, having a clear production schedule. You can offer donors, you can offer them credit, uh, within the film, depending on how much that they donate, offering them screen credit and such. And there are just certain strategies you can follow if you want to go the crowdfunding route. Other ways, you can consider a fiscal sponsorship. This is where you would seek out a nonprofit fiscal sponsor. Um, and the reason this is important is because then people could contribute to your production, and it would be a tax deductible contribution. Um, and probably to get this fiscal sponsorship, you would need to put together a proposal and a budget. Um, Sometimes, in some cases, I know, like with the Maine Humanities Council, they want they deal primarily with matching contributions, so you would have to raise, let's say, like $1,000 and get $1,000 in kind from them. There are certainly a lot of other sources. I'll just kind of mention a few of these for short films. Sundance, the National Endowment of Humanities, Tribeca, Ford Foundation. Most of these require a pretty detailed proposal. You don't have to necessarily have the script completely developed, but you do need to have a pretty detailed proposal. Um, Other in terms of like why do you need the funding? Well, it's nice to be able to pay your crew. It's always nice to be able to pay for equipment rentals and such. Um, it's great. Here, you're in the media studies program, and you're able to use and check out the equipment and such. But once you graduate, it's a little more difficult to get a hold of equipment. There are some other things that you can do in terms of um, raising money and getting donations and stuff. You can ask for what they call in-kind services. This is where a restaurant might or a fast food place might be able to support you in terms of providing meals for your crew. You could then give them some screen credit. Also, movie theaters for your showing, banks. You can approach them, for banks, maybe just the fact that they'll kind of let you open up a checking account and run your money through particular. So maybe they won't charge you all the service fees that they normally do in lieu of the fact that you're providing some screen credit. So these are called in-kind services. Okay, going from script to line script. How this works is you take your script and then you start to visualize, what your shot's going to be. Each scene will be broken down into a series of shots, wide shots, medium close-ups, and you want to make sure that you have good coverage. I've provided a link to show you what a line script looks like. So when you take your script and you start lining it, the other great thing about going through this process is then you have a line script with your camera shots marked out, and also maybe any camera movement. You should also mention that too. Um, then you can start putting together your shot list, and I've also provided a link for that, so you can have a nice looking shot list. And then that makes it easy for you to go ahead and put together your production schedule. And for the production schedule, what I'm going to recommend is that you use Gmail, the Google Calendar. You can create your own calendar and share it among your crew members. And also later on, when you get your actors to work on your project, you can also share it with them. And you can also print it out. You can make any kind of modifications, and everything needs to be marked on the calendar, all the pre-production, production, post-production, and also any class due dates. If I'm asking you for take a look at an assembly of your clips, or if I'm asking for look at your first complete edit of your short film, then that needs to be marked there too. And actually, the more detailed you make your production schedule, frankly, the better. Now, if you were actually going to go ahead and finance this, you would then use your production schedule to put together a budget. But I'm not going to ask you to do that for this class, but that kind of gives you an idea about how this all works together. I've also provided some examples of location and talent release forms. You do need to get um, permission if you're using a uh, location that like a restaurant or somebody's, even if somebody's house or apartment or such, you need to be able to have a release for using that location. And then there's also the talent release form, which was also provided, and these will all be part of your production portfolio. Okay, that's it for this week. A lot of different stuff to cover. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.